All right, we are live, and we've got a few viewers joining in now. So we'll wait a few minutes here, give them another minute or two before we get rolling. Boyd, how was your time over at the Hope Center?
Very nice. I was able to meet several ministries and talk to them about our online.
We've got a few viewers. Wonderful. All right. Let's see here. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to give them one more minute here before we get rolling. Thank you for your patience, everybody. If you've already joined us, we are about to begin. All right. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today for Ministry Ventures Live. Today we are going to be discussing the 7 secrets of engaged boards, and we've got a great panel joining us today. Really exciting interview and discussion ahead of us. So we really want to just thank you for joining us and commend you for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to join us today. My name is Joshua Randolph. I'm the Director of Operations here at Ministry Ventures, located in Atlanta, Georgia. Ministry Ventures is a ministry itself dedicated to helping nonprofit faith-based leaders we love helping them take their organizations and helping them thrive. So that's what we're all about. We've been doing this for about 14, 15 years now. Just a great history of success thanks to people like our founder Boyd Bailey and our board members who you'll meet today, and of course all glory to God for what He's done through this. As we get started, just a little heads up that if you'd like to tweet some questions for our Q&A time, you can reach us at Ministry Venture is our handle there, and use the hashtag #EngagedBoard. We'll be tracking that, and you can throw out some of your questions during that time. I want to let you also know about a giveaway we're going to be doing at the end of this broadcast. We are going to be giving away an excellent resource for your board members and for you as a ministry leader. It's a book written by Peter Greer, the founder of Hope, or he's the current executive director for Hope International, which is an organization that helps impact communities around the world through microfinancing. He's written a book called Mission Drift, which is an excellent resource full of wisdom and interviews and tons of case studies. You'll want to make sure you dive into that. So I'll tell you how you can win that at the end of this session. And here's a quote from the book that I loved. It says, "If board members aren't bleeding for the mission, drift will always trickle down." What a statement of just what we want our board members to be about. We want them to be bleeding for the mission, so to speak, and really caring about that and really engaging with what we're doing as an organization. And so that's what this discussion is going to be about. Let me give you the agenda for today. We're going to go about 40-45 minutes max. We want to make good use of our time, and we don't want to keep you busy for too long. I know you've got things to do, so we're going to try to wrap it up about 45 minutes. We're going to have a panel interview to kick things off after I introduce our panel, and then we're going to go right into some, if we have enough time, we're going to do some Q&A at the end. And you can, again, tweet your questions or use the video interface on the Google Hangout. If you want to type your question in there, it'll pop and rise up to the top. People can like it or vote on it, so to speak. And then we're going to do a giveaway at the end. So that's kind of where we're heading today. So let's meet our panel, meet the team here. Beth Bennett is our regional consultant here in Atlanta, and she's also a coach. She is the wife of President John Bennett, who is just a huge asset, but he's right now down in South Florida leading a fundraising training for leaders down there, so he couldn't join us today. But Beth is with us, and she'll be really leading the questions as we move along. Boyd Bailey is also joining us from Texas today, and Boyd is the founder, CEO, and coach for Ministry Ventures. He's been around since the inception back in 1999, and is just one of the most generous and wonderful people you'll ever meet. Love having him as my boss and my friend, so really glad he's here. One of our board members, our board chair, David Dieter, he is again, one of the partners and founders for an accounting firm here in Atlanta, and he's going to be joining us from his office downtown Atlanta today. He is just an incredibly generous individual and fun to get to know. Really enjoyed getting to know him in recent months, and he's got a wealth of wisdom for you leaders and board members out there. And last but certainly not least, joining us from a beautiful place down in Atlanta today is Chris Bledsoe. He is the founder of Banker's Dashboard, and is also one of our board members here at Ministry Ventures. Chris is just an incredibly generous man as well, shares his time, his wisdom, his experience with us to help us get better at what we do, and you're going to enjoy getting to know him today as well. And just to show you that while there is rivalry among our college football alma maters and teams, even with this kind of background, we can still work together when it comes to the kingdom. So it's kind of neat to see where each of you guys and gals has their allegiances on the football field. All right, it's time to get rolling here, and as we do, Beth, I'm going to turn it over to you. So thank you guys for joining us again, and without further ado, let's turn it over to Beth.
All right, thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. Well, you know, as I've been thinking about this this time together, we actually sent a survey out asking for feedback regarding the greatest needs in board development. We know that board members join our organizations with the best of intentions, don't we? And they can be our most powerful assets. So the survey that came back to us, we found some really interesting, really across the board, people have the same type of questions and desires in their boards. Here's just a few of them before we get started. Questions like, when should the fundraising really begin with the board? That's a really good question. Why won't the board be more helpful? And how can I get them to be more helpful? And questions like this: how do I go about identifying the new directors I need on my board with the right skills? So hopefully today, I do believe that we are going to have some good discussion around these questions and others. We have some very engaged board members that we're blessed with at Ministry Ventures, and we want to kind of mine from their experience and their expertise. So let's start out with Boyd Bailey. Boyd is our CEO, and he's been working with Ministry Ventures from the inception with a very engaged board, and I thought we would just jump right off and ask him a question regarding the first secret of donor engagement. And that first secret is this: the executive director needs to give relationally to the board. So Boyd, let me ask you this. Speak to the directors today on the phone in terms of how giving relationally to the board increases their engagement.
Beth and Josh, I did for the best universe a couple years ago, and with our chairman David. So here's a couple of thoughts around that. The proverb, the refreshes of it. It's not a conditional promise in this. When we invest in others, well, I think it's important to see the board and liability. I think sometimes we're intimidated as leaders that our board members are so successful and
Beth, it looks like
business type and alongside him.
Hey Boyd, looks like we're having a little trouble on your connection there. It's a little little sketchy there. I'm gonna let that kind of reconnect, and we'll get back to you on that if there's time. Let's take it to Chris, who's standing by in Atlanta, and let's move to him until that gets a little bit better, Beth.
All right, sounds good. Chris, let's talk about the second secret of board engagement, inviting participation in ministry. Let me ask you this. How have you participated in the Ministry of Ministry Ventures and the other boards that you served on?
I mean, that's a good question. One of the things I've seen is board members, me personally, I guess I've participated in a lot of different ways. Right now I'm serving as an interim CFO. I've got some time availability, and it comes down to just asking. You know, if you're on the board or if you're heading up an organization, ask for what you need. You know, communication is a huge thing, and you probably know the skill sets of the folks around the table. If you're one of the folks around the table, let it be known what you'd be open to doing. A lot of times I've seen on boards that, you know, management may be hesitant to ask because they're afraid you might not have time to participate. Other times I've seen them, you know, not know about the availability. My point, I guess, is make sure you're communicating both ways. Directors communicating with the management team letting it be known what their needs are. Communication is huge, and you're going to hear that over and over today, but communicate what you need and how you need it.
Very good, thanks. You know, Chris, one of the most prevailing questions we get from executive directors is this: how do I get the board to help with the fundraising efforts of the ministry?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give?
Yeah, it goes back to that word communicate. I think if you can let them clearly know what you need and why, okay? It's one thing to ask people for money, but if you've got a specific need or a specific area that you need funding in, let the board know, okay? If you've got specific dollar amounts you need, let them know that amount. A lot of times board members are sitting around waiting to be asked, okay? And a lot of times if they can't do it, they may know somebody that can. Board members sometimes don't know how to ask others for money. And as a director or as a management team member, and I say management team because sometimes it's not one person, it's a group, right? Offer to go to lunch with the board member with a potential donor if you're not comfortable asking. But a lot of times if you communicate the vision of what the ministry's doing, you communicate the needs of that ministry, getting as specific as you can, and don't be afraid to ask. Typically that's the hardest part, just asking. But often that's the most important part because you'll be amazed at what some people will do if you just ask them. So I think it comes back to communication, Beth. I think that's what's connected with me, and as I look around the table of boards I'm on, that's what it ultimately comes down to. But I think that's the part it seems like management team members are the most uncomfortable doing. It's like selling. You're afraid to ask for the deal. Effectively, that's what this is. Ask for the deal. And then I think if you've done your homework before then, with the communication, with the description of the need, where it's going, I think you'd be amazed at what God will do.
Great. Thank you so much. Is Boyd good now? Josh, could I ask him a question?
Boyd, talk to us for a second. Let's see what we can get from you.
Is it any better?
Oh, okay. Yes.
No.
We'll go to David.
Yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
David. I'm interested in knowing, what do you think? When should this fundraising discussion begin with the board?
Well, I think it's often and early. You know, I think it's a reasonable discussion to have really day one as you're interviewing board members, thinking about realistically, you want board members who have capacity, or at least a lot of our board members need to have capacity to be generous. So I would have that discussion very early.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Another question for you, David. As a board member, how has receiving program updates engaged you more fully? This is our second secret providing program updates. So how has this helped you engage?
Well, that's really a good question. We were chatting about this issue a little earlier this morning, is that I think you really want to recruit busy board members. Because what's the saying? If you want something done, give it to somebody busy. But yet, because they're busy, you have to remind them what's going on. They need to be informed. And there's a fine line between informing them and driving them crazy. But I love the bullet point highlights and let them know what's going on.
Very good. All right. We're going to go to our fourth secret. Our fourth secret is creating a spirit-led culture. Okay, and I know at Ministry Ventures that we train ministry leaders to actually engage in this way by having a board member who is a spiritual director. And I know if Boyd were with us right now, he would speak to the huge need for this and success for this in faith-based nonprofits. I mean, it's amazing how many ministries we talk to, and yes, they pray, and they have a culture of prayer, but not as intentional as it could be. And I'd like to hear from Chris. Chris, what is your, you've been on MV's board for a couple years now, and you've seen Larry Green, our spiritual director, lead the team in this way. And, you know, how important have you seen this, and, you know, just the humility and the laying down of personal agendas that Ministry Ventures operates by? How important have you seen this in our ministry?
Yeah, Beth, I mean, I think it's incredibly important, and I think you've got to make it a priority. You know, oftentimes I've seen ministries, you know, even churches that I don't know if it's because you're around prayer so much it's not a priority anymore, but I think if you make it a priority, make a Devo type portion of your board meeting and start the board meeting off with that, with a message that's centered around what you're trying to get at, and reinforcing the fact that prayer is important. And again, it comes back to making it a priority, making it the first agenda item typically at the board meeting, and not a token quick prayer, but more of an in-depth, like you said, laying the humility down, the grace, the mercy, the whole bit of it, asking God to direct the ministry. And I think that's when you look back and connect the dots on where your ministry's been, you'll see God all in it, man. And so I think acknowledging it early and consistently. I think it's good. I mean, I don't see how you can.
It's good. And maybe, David, you could speak to this also in terms of board recruitment. You know, what should some of the first things, besides, you know, the expectation of giving be, but in terms of what type of believer should we be looking for, or, you know, commitment should we be looking for in the heart of a potential board member?
Yeah, you know, I think Josh started out with some football, funny things with football, but if you look at the best football teams, they usually have the best recruits. And so training and all is very important, but I think recruiting your board member is more important than training them. You've got to have folks that are interested in your ministry, but they have capacity. And I would say that a lot of folks that are successful want to be part of something great. Life is so short. They'll catch a vision, but they want to be part of something that's really can transform lives and be very meaningful. So you got to have a compelling vision. And then I would specifically go out and recruit folks that it's really sounds kind of tough, but you need to recruit board members that can give money. I mean, give thousands and thousands of dollars. And so I just would encourage you to think hard about your recruiting. I think what I've seen a lot of times on boards is there's a lot of folks on the board that might have an empathy toward the ministry, but they want to volunteer their time, but they don't have the financial capabilities to really, or the contacts to move the ministry forward. So it's all about recruiting the board members.
Okay, good. So you mentioned contacts. Let's talk about that a minute. So a board member needs to be willing to open up their Rolodex, you may say, and share contacts they have. If they can't give, we encourage them to get the funds. And so what are some ways that you've seen successful in this type of development, using board members to to recruit other people?
Well, people want to be, again, it goes back, want to be part of something great. So if the ministry interests them, that's likely that God's calling them to that ministry. And so then they'll get excited about it and want other people to participate. So really, it's just letting your friends know about this really cool ministry that's going on, and you want them to just know about it and have them have a chance to participate. So again, I think you got to recruit somebody who's interested in your ministry and has connections or capacity.
All right. Very good. Thank you. That was our 5th secret, by the way. Recruit A players. Recruit A players. And we're going to segue right now to the 6th secret. The 6th secret is furnishing clear roles and expectations. And, again, I heard it both from Chris and David. It's like up front. Up front, the expectations, really need to be laid out clearly. There may be some great people out there who do have passion for your ministry, but they may not be the type of leader or person you really want on your board. They may be better in a volunteer and capacity, and that's great because we all know we need a lot of volunteers in our ministries as well. So furnishing clear roles and expectations. I know here at Ministry Ventures we have a process of, and we train and we teach this also to other ministries, the process of recruiting, the process of having a board of directors position description given. And so as far as that clarity and upfront expectations in an engaged board, being a fully funded board, I think maybe David's probably been on the board longer than Chris. David, since you are the board chair, maybe you could speak to this as far as the clear roles and expectations needed.
Well, we do have a committee that interviews and vets potential board members, and through that, I will say we do set clear expectations of what the board member is. We ask them to do and what we're asking them to do financially. So really, as far as Ministry Ventures goes, the board members, we're making it real clear what we want them to do financially as a minimum, and why they need to do that. And so there is a vetting process. We keep a constant list of potential board members, and of course we have term limits to be a member of our board.
Okay, what are the term limits?
We have you can be, I think it's up to 2 3-year terms.
Okay, 3-year terms. Very good. Very good. Hey, Chris, maybe you could offer some insight. What if there's a ministry leader out here that maybe has some disengaged board members right now, and maybe clear roles and expectations weren't laid out at first. This new ministry, they got really excited. They needed people to help, and so just good people are on the board, but they're not really engaged. Can you give any advice on how you would, encourage either, a greater involvement or maybe lovingly direct them in another area of the ministry?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I suspect everybody on the call right now knows somebody that would fit that description. Mm-hmm. What I would encourage a ministry leader to do is take that person to lunch and just talk to them. Find out where they are, one-on-one, not in a group, not in the middle of a board meeting or anything like that, but find out. They may be burnt out. They may have something private going on at home. It could be any number of things, but I think if we get in front of them and communicate the needs of the ministry, it might be time for them to step aside, and that's not a bad thing. I think it's like asking for money. Sometimes if you ask them if they'd want to come off the board, they might, or they may not realize they've not been engaged because they've been on the board so long. So, again, I would encourage a one-on-one lunch-type setting to find out where they are. And, if another role, maybe on an advisory capacity, might be better. But I think most of the time you have a meeting like that, a lunch like that, you're kind of nervous going into it, but you're glad you had it when it's over with. But before you go into that meeting, make sure you got a clear idea of what you want to accomplish when you come out of there. And it's either you want them either engaged or you want them moving on. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Good.
And I think, just asking them.
Okay, really good, Chris. I know you and David have really a good relationship with Boyd. Unfortunately, he can't be, all the technical things didn't work out for him to be with us. I sure wish that would have happened. But maybe you guys can maybe just share about the importance of your relationship with the executive director and how, the relational aspect of that has caused you to become more engaged, and maybe some advice to some of the executive directors out there, how to relationally build into their board.
Well,
yeah, you want me to go first, Beth?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that doesn't know Boyd, I hadn't met anybody yet that doesn't know Boyd, but Boyd is a relational guy, and I think that's the thing. He works the relationship, not just the board members because of what you can do, but he just likes people, man, and you spend a little bit of time with him, and the thing about Boyd, too, is he's not afraid to ask. If he needs something, he'll ask you, and if you can't do it, he's fine with that, okay? So it's not... It's the relationship that's the most important. And I think he's a good communicator. So he's always letting you know the needs, letting you know where the ministry's headed, letting you know what the challenges he sees are, letting you know if he needs help. So if you're a ministry leader, I encourage you individually, not just in the board meeting, but individually, really get to know your board, man. Get to know what their strengths are, what their passions are. And we were at a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I encourage the ministry leaders to, invite the board members to lunch on some regular interval, one-on-one. They'll probably pay for it. If they don't, they may not need to be on your board, but it's a way for you to spend some one-on-one time and keeping that relationship, keeping that communication line open. So that's what I would encourage.
That's beautiful. Good advice. What about you, David?
Well, Beth, I think that's really a fascinating question, and I see Boyd back on here, so it's almost embarrassing to talk about him here while you can hear. But Boyd is very inspirational, and I would say personally, he invests in our lives, and he knows. He and I had a discussion on some personal things just a day or two ago, and so get involved in family. So between that inspiration and that personal interest, it really takes it more than just oh my gosh, it's a board meeting. I can't believe I got to go and invest 2 or 3 hours or whatever. So that personal time and that relationship puts it over the top. There's no question. Boyd does that, and I see other great leaders that are interested in individual board members. What's going on in their life? Where are they in their family and their financial situation? So I think it's really critical.
Absolutely. Boyd, are you able to speak to that? We're talking about just the importance of being engaged relationally again, and these guys have been bragging on you. You are a big example to us as well as the hundreds of boards that you have helped equip throughout the years. What kind of margin, Boyd, does a ministry leader need, in their life to be able to give this type of way to the board?
Yeah, can you hear me all right now?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Okay. Well, I would encourage leaders. I'll just confess to you, I was intimidated when I first started developing boards and getting to know board members, because I felt like they were a lot more spiritual than I was and more successful. But over time, I learned that we all have our same issues and challenges and problems, and so I would just be transparent with them about my own struggles and ask for their prayers and ask how I could best serve them, and what are their specific needs that I could be praying about. I think a word that helped me over the years is just being systematic. So maybe Wednesday afternoons or Thursday afternoons, I would dedicate that time just to contact board members, see how they're doing, see how I could be praying for them, what are their challenges. Also, I like to give gifts to board members, books, sermons. I like to introduce them to people. I met with the board member Danny Phillips last night in Dallas, and you know, he had the venison with gravy, cooked medium rare, and I had the fish. But anyway, he was really stressing over his daughter getting married in a month, and not everything coming together. And so we talked about that and processed that. And I don't know, I think it's just those little things of really being engaged in their life. And, oh, I know what it was. One other thing, his son was wanting to get involved in micro enterprise overseas. So I was able to introduce him to Pete Oakes, who's doing that in Wichita. So I think another important point is for us to be generous with our relationships, introduce them to other board members. And then one last thought, Beth, is I think it's critical that we get our board members' opinions and ideas as we're setting the agenda for the board meeting. David and I collaborate a lot on setting the board agenda, getting their thoughts and input, and then following through with their ideas so that they realize that we're valuing them and their thoughts and their experience.
That's good. Very good. So there's mutual respect, a lot of mutual respect I hear, and
absolutely, yes,
building into each other's lives.
Absolutely.
Good.
Together, you know, that's important.
Very good. All right, I think maybe, has it been David? I've heard David say this. It's like the ministry rises and falls on the level of the board, you know, commitment. One of y'all said that one time. David, you want to speak to that?
Boyd, do you want to go speak to that?
Well, I was just going to say, I've always thought the quality of the ministry doesn't rise any higher than the quality of the board. I think that's definitely the case. And I think, Beth, another important point is to have a board chair that you have great chemistry with. You know, David and I are friends, but I also know that he can be honest with me and hold me accountable. And then, you know, I can ask him to help if I'm having some issues with getting the committee on the board to follow through. Well, it means a lot more coming from David as the board chair in the board meeting, one of their peers, than me. You know, the joke is I'm paid to be good, and they're good for nothing. You know, as volunteers. So, you know, those are just a few thoughts.
Okay. One other thought, Boyd, you know, we probably have ministry leaders who haven't been around for 14, 15 years. They're just starting out. You know, when you were starting out, I know that you talked about kind of overcoming that fear of meeting with people who you felt like were more successful or whatever, but any other advice on helping these startups or these new ministries, you know, really recruit these kind of people, or maybe what kind of time, realistically, how long, you know, can it take somebody to really get an engaged board together?
That's a great question. I really saw it, too, as a stewardship responsibility because, you know, if Jesus needed 12 to help him, and, of course, one of those was a rascal, but if he needed 12, that's a pretty good model to follow. And there's so many things I don't know that board members do know based on their experience of managing cash flow and recruiting good employees, in our case, recruiting good, you know, volunteers or team members for our staff. So I just actually prayed for people that would complement my skill set and gift set, and look for gray hair because they've had, you know, they have experience. And then the whole stewardship piece of it struck me one day. There's probably $30,000 worth of time in this board meeting that they're investing. They're volunteering and giving their time. I want to make sure I'm prepared and that we're all working together. And they've had input on the board agenda. And, you know, it's not me just leading the board meeting. It's the board chair leading the board meeting, and hopefully the Holy Spirit facilitating. And so I would just say it's better to have 3 board members that are real committed than to have 8 or 9 that we just grabbed a warm body and just kind of recruited them on. I think it's important that we are very prayerful and very intentional on skill sets that will complement our giftedness and what we do, and just be persistent. You know, my theology is every time God brings somebody into my life, I think he may be sending them either to be a board member or a donor or some way to participate in the ministry.
Wow. Great. Good perspective. Now we got our last secret. The last secret of an engaged board is to equip them to be advocates. And Chris, I'm going to ask you this question. How has Ministry Ventures equipped you to be an advocate for the ministry?
Did you say me or Boyd?
Yes. Chris?
Okay, yeah. You know, I think it goes back again to that communication thing. Boyd and Beth and John and Josh and the whole team really do a good job of really keeping us abreast on what's going on. You know, what are some recent wins in the ministry? What's going on right now? I think if you're a ministry leader out there, invite your board members to attend events. If you're, you know, whatever your ministry is, invite them to come sit in the back and observe what you guys do. Sometimes they don't really know. That's one thing the Ministry Ventures team does, encourages us board members to come, and I've been to one of those, and it's incredible when you really see them in action. Okay, I think too, if you can take some time on some of your board meetings and really describe what you do in an elevator pitch type setting. If somebody asks them what your ministry does, would all of your board members say the exact same thing? And I think it's all about keeping it simple. But it's communicating what's going on. It's again letting your board members know what you need, and letting them know, hey, what is your passion? What is your sweet spot? So I think it's all of those things. But as a board member, I'm going to encourage you to attend some of your ministry events. And if you're a ministry leader, I encourage you to invite your board members to attend some of those events.
Good. Very good. All right, well, Josh, I'm going to hand it over to you. I bet we've got some questions out there that maybe you could ask these engaged board members.
Yes, yes, we do. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these now here. We've got one here from Julie. What type of relationship does the executive director have with the board members before recruiting them to join the board? Does pouring into board members need to happen before someone is approached to join the board? David, what do you think about that as a board member?
So is the question for the executive director, should they pour into prospective board members? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, it's kind of, it is, it could be from either perspective, the executive director or the potential board member, kind of developing that relationship before being asked to join the board. Maybe you could tell us the story of how you got asked to come on this board.
Right. Well, I would say in my case, the answer would be I was friends with Boyd for a long time before I was asked. So I guess I'm thinking, though, honestly, that time maybe could be short. Obviously, you need to have Chris mentioned have lunch with him a time or two, but it could be the guy just dropped somebody right in your lap. That can be you could get to know in a relatively short period of time. Obviously, you need to do due diligence on the person and know something about them and to have a sense about that, but I don't think it needs to be a long, drawn-out situation.
Good.
Chris, I don't see what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, typically it's somebody that you already know. I mean, you know, or some of the board members know really well, and I think it's probably important to really vet that person. But I don't know that you really need to pour into them over an extended period of time. I think it's communicating the needs, man, the expectations, and you know, you're going to know pretty quick if they're someone that wants to participate in your ministry at that level or not. But it does take a vetting process and communication leading up to that.
Very good. Boyd, do you want to speak to that as well?
Yeah, I would just say we have all of our board members talk to the prospective board member and make sure there's a good chemistry. You know, people have different questions, different perspectives, and all of our board members remind this prospective board member that there's a financial expectation that they're expected to give as part of being on the board of directors. So they hear the financial expectation multiple times. There's no surprises, and then we have it all written out. All the expectations are written out in a one-page document.
That's great. Awesome. Well, that's all the questions we have right now, and it's 2:40, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Chris, David, Boyd, thank you guys so much for joining us from all over the country today and downtown. We really super appreciate it. We've got a few more things to go over as we close out, but just want to thank you guys for your time. We do want to mention to our viewers out there, executive directors and board members, there is a coaching opportunity coming in July here in Atlanta. We wanted to let you know about. It's the executive group coaching all-day session on board development. So if this is something that you need to want to learn more about, we've got an all-day session that is really geared around engaging your ministry board so as to define its roles and both individually and corporately around the vision and mission of your organization. So this is going to be a great session. Some of the things you're going to cover is board qualification, governance, and expectations, creating role-based boards, creating meaningful meetings, and also this idea of a board of influence, kind of a farm league, if you will, for the board of directors. And so you're going to learn some great things. There are some deliverables you'll be able to take away from it. We give you some templates and some tools to actually implement into your own board, some board role assignments. We're going to give you the annual governance calendar, kind of a template of what we use, and also a board rotation schedule that you can start implementing if you don't already have one in place. The cost of this session is usually $500. And for all of you that have registered for today's event, we're going to give you a special discount of $399, and that's for 2 people. It's you and a board member or somebody from your team, and includes an all-day coaching session here in Atlanta. You have to get here, but it includes lunch, some light breakfast, and refreshments throughout the day. So it's going to be a really great time. Here's what I need you to do is check your email. We're going to send you an email after this session, and it's going to have a special promo code for you. And if you are interested in that, you can learn more. Click that link and use that promo code, and you'll get a special discount for that event. And some of our leaders are already on the call today, are already in that executive group coaching class here in Atlanta. Shout out to Nathan and Kristen Avery from Choose to Invest. They're going to be hopefully joining us there, and so just it's going to be a great time. You're going to be around round tables with other ministry leaders and learning a lot. So check the email for that. And I want to tell you how to get this book, Mission Drift. It's a great book to get into the hands of your board members, and if you're a ministry leader, I highly recommend you read it. Here's what we're going to do. If you will tweet or post a takeaway from today, something that you found helpful, something that you think, man, this was really just right what I needed to hear, or I'm going to take action on this idea, something that Chris, David, Boyd said, just go ahead and tweet us. Tweet it out at Ministry Venture. Use the hashtag EngageBoards, or you can post it on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Ministry Ventures, and we're going to take all of those entries and choose a few winners and send you this book. So please don't miss out on this great resource for you and your team. And hey guys, everybody out there, all you ministry leaders, thank you for what you do for the kingdom. Thank you for serving so faithfully to the Lord, and we're just grateful for you, and we look forward to helping you in any way we can. So if you need to get hold of us, here's our contact information on the screen. Reach out to us anytime. We are here for you. Ministryventures.org is our website, and our phone number is on the screen. So just want to thank you for joining us. Have a great day. May the Lord establish the work of your hands this day, this week, and into the year. And so thanks again, and we'll see you next time for the next episode of Ministry Ventures Live.